You all set?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the Book of Briana, a podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Briana Whiteside, and I have a really special Mother's Day episode for you all on Mother's Day. I want to first say Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers. Happy Mother's Day, Mom. I did ask my mom to come on the podcast today to talk about motherhood, but also more specifically to talk about how she has helped me journey through this very critical, hard time that I show y'all snippets of transitioning out of my career. And we're gonna talk about some of the behind the scenes stuff that y'all don't see. So without further ado, I want to welcome you to the podcast. I'm so happy that you decided to join me today.
Thank you for having me.
All right. So when I asked you to, when I was thinking about this podcast, or this month of content, I was really thinking about womanhood, right? And so we all already had one episode aired by the time y'all watch this on the War on Women. And as I was thinking about womanhood, I could not divorce womanhood, femininity from motherhood and how important mothers are. And I understand that motherhood and Mother's Day and moms, that's a tricky subject for a lot of people. And I am aware of that. But I still wanted to talk about it because your guidance, your help has been very instrumental for me. And so we're going to look at it from a faith perspective, but also from a personal perspective. So let's go ahead and jump right in. So you are a mother of a lot of us. You've been a mother for a long time.
Since I was 17.
Jesus Christ.
Yes.
You've been a mother for a long time to some very specific people.
Mm-hmm.
We are individually different. We have different temperaments. We have different insights. Yet we all came from one house.
Yeah.
One house. And we've all journeyed with you through motherhood, adulthood, and different phases of your life, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, you all have heard us on the podcast before when we were talking and I interviewed her, but you all haven't heard us on the podcast talking about this specific season of my life. So generally, when I think about the faith, I think about you being like the foundational person in my life for the faith, modeling it, right? Even though I didn't know at the time what you were doing, you were my point of contact, growing up. We would go to church. I would get my Whoppers because
Burger King
Whoppers because what was it? Because I didn't want to go to children's church.
No, you got the cookies when you didn't want to go to children's church. But Whopper, when was like after church, we would just walk over to Burger King and it would just be me and you, and we would eat and then we'd go home. So that was our special time together.
Before the little fur balls came along. Before the rest of the clan came along, I had like 5 good years.
Right.
And so I remember, we would go to church, we'd go get these Whoppers with cheese cut in half.
Definitely.
And then we'll go from there. And so when I'm thinking about the faith or my origins in the faith, it was largely those moments that I remember from childhood. And this does not mean that I did not shy away from the training, you know what I'm saying, in the middle. But now here we are. I am 34. This transitional place in my life, more specifically, my career started at 33. And I remember, I'm gonna tear up. God, it's such a touchy subject for me.
And of course, it should be.
It's so touchy. And so I remember when I think before I made the decision, I was already telling you, this is what I think is about to happen. This is what I think is about to happen. And certain things are about to trigger this end. How did you feel hearing your daughter, who you have had to pray through, grad school, college, like you took me away to school, for undergrad, and all you were there for all the graduations, and you saw how hard I worked and cried spitting for it and worked for this thing. Like, how did it feel when you first heard the first conversation about this is about to end for me?
Honestly, I was like, oh my God, Lord, is this you? And while you talking to me and I'm listening and I'm like praying in the spirit, because I'm like, Lord, is this you? I know that you were radically, when you accepted the Lord, it was a radical change. And the journey was, it was brutal for you. And then just I think it's like going back to, is she really about to do this? And it was like, but I my thoughts were my thoughts, and I never shared my thoughts.
Right. Yeah.
And that's something I learned with each of you guys. I listen. I don't share my thoughts on certain things because I didn't want to deter you from whatever it was that you needed to do. And I wanted it to be your decision, not my, not me putting my own thoughts off or my fears or discomforts off on you. So yeah, at that time, I was just like, honestly, I had put the phone on mute and I was shut up or sick. And I'm trying to discern, trying to hear, so you know how I do.
Right.
We as prophetic people, so I'm trying to discern, and it was like I wasn't hearing nothing. I wasn't, and I'm you talking and you like, Mom, finna be out of here. And I'm like, out of where? Girl, you just got there. But I remember, Briana, even when you were interviewing for the different schools to for employment, you told me you had a dream that you would be in Las Vegas. Mm-hmm. And when they denied you, and I was like, no, at first they, then they circle back around, but look at the accomplishment of when you weren't the first chosen, but because God said, this is the path I have for you, he caused whomever they chose to not choose them. Yeah. So that you could be where he authorized you or where he wanted you to be. Yeah. And we also know that it was a kind of like a rough 4 months before you went with the storm in your house. The tree went through your house.
Them not paying me.
Right. They didn't pay you to come. Then the good thing is that you had began to save money and you had began to make changes for your life so that you can be prepared. So it's amazing how God prepares us for things that we don't know that's happening down the line, as well as when the enemy will come in and try to bring distractions and determines to stop you or us from doing the will of God. God has already made that way for us.
Yeah. And so, like, let me clarify. I was not saving money at that point. You remember I only moved with $30 and I was living on my credit cards.
Oh, your credit cards, right.
I was living on my credit cards and I had that $30 and I was shook. And I remember you saying, like, look at you. Like, and it wasn't like this admirable. It's like, I know you're hurting trying to do this thing. And there's nothing I can do because my face was broken out. The car situation, my stuff was already en route to Vegas. They hadn't paid me. I didn't have nothing. I was just like, what am I gonna do?
And when you got to Vegas, your car wasn't where it's supposed to be. It was just a lot.
It was so much. It was so hard. And so
you would call me crying. And it was like, it was nothing I could do. Nothing, because you had to walk that out and you had to, as the scriptures say, not as a religious cliche, you literally had to stand still and see the salvation of the Lord. You had to stop and let God move and intervene on your behalf.
And there was nothing I could do.
Nothing.
There was nothing I could do. I just had to take it. And that was like the first big thing that I had to walk by faith, right? That
Mhm.
was my first experience having to walk by faith from the decision of them denying me at first, me falling apart because all my
Mhm.
friends were getting jobs. And I'm like, hello, like what's going on? I know you said I'm supposed to be here. And they tell me that they chose somebody else.
Right.
Like, we went down with that and then having to move and all the warfare behind it. And I'm falling
Yeah.
apart, living in a hotel, maxing my credit cards out.
And then you were working for them for the summer
I
too.
was
That's what
working
they
for
didn't pay you.
That's when they
When
didn't
you were
pay
working
me.
for them for the summer.
And the payment didn't come through until the next day after I got to Vegas, and it was only a partial payment. So I went to bed that night with 30 something dollars. Like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I don't know what I'm gonna do, right? And so we're in that transition. And it's so funny because I remember, we've had these conversations. I'm like, I don't think I'm going to be in academia forever. And we knew this. We knew I joked about it. I talked about it. But when that thing came up, that time came up, I struggled.
Yeah.
I struggled greatly. And I remember in my mind, I was like, you're going to have to make a decision in this season. You know what you're supposed to do. You can either do it or not do it. No one will blame you if you don't do it, though. Like, no one is going to blame you because this is something that you knew you wanted to, teach in second grade. I'm a natural teacher. But now God is asking me to give it up. And now this is where you got to have big girl. This is the big girl walk with God. But I remember, and still in this moment, still in this decision, it is coming to an end very swiftly. And I remember there are so many times. I remember when God kind of forced my hand to have the conversation with my department chair. Remember that day I called you on FaceTime? Crying. I'm gonna tear up now because I was like, what did I just do? Did I just do the right thing? Like, what was it when I called you and said, this is what I just did?
Well, you know what? I knew that you were going to do it because that's why you were there. I mean, that's why you called me before you had the conversation, before you were going to have the conversation.
Yeah.
And you was like, I need you to pray for me. And I was just like, I don't even know what to pray. No, but seriously, I was able to pray for you. And the Lord strengthened you to make that decision. And when you called me back and you was like, Ma, I was like, oh, my baby.
Because it ain't too much that's gonna rattle me.
Right.
That did.
And I was just like, oh my God, my baby. And it was nothing I can do but listen.
Yeah.
But listen, and at that time, you didn't need the intercessor, you didn't need the prophet, you didn't need any of that. You needed your mother. And that's exactly what it was, that I was just like, I listened. And I don't even know what comforting words I said, but just to be there to listen. Because a lot of people would call a friend or they would call someone else. So to be that one that you would run to or come to, it's like you have to be there. You have to take that time out so that I can sit and listen and hear what you had to say. Yeah. And a lot of it, you was just like, I just don't know. I just don't know. What did I just do?
I was like, I didn't want to do this.
Right.
I didn't want to do this. Like, I was clear, like, I wasn't trying to make my exit. I wasn't trying to leave my job. I didn't want to do this.
Yeah.
But I knew I had to do this. Mm-hmm. And even with that initial conversation, then there were more conversations that I had to have with the university and even up to the point of submitting the resignation.
And they didn't want you to do that either.
They didn't want me to submit the resignation.
And not to mention the backlash from the person who was over you and the things to me, from what you explained, it was like they were trying to handle you. Mm-hmm. And even prior to this conversation, remember, they wanted to tell you to stop talking about Christ on your podcast, on your social media platforms, as well as what was it? Was the what?
finances. Like,
Yeah,
don't
they
talk
didn't want
about
you to talk
money.
about how much money you made, or how you made money, or how you saved, what the amount of money you saved, and
Yeah.
because it didn't add up to whatever. And it was like, no, I'm not gonna do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that was important because you took that stand for Christ.
And it was a hard stand.
And
These
it's
stands are
one of
hard.
those, it reminds me of the scripture where it says, for God I live and for God I die.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, I'm going to take a stand. So a lot of people talk about taking stands, but you don't hear that they've taken that stand. It's one thing to say, oh yeah, I'll do this and I'll do that, but when it comes down to it, no, they don't.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And this was a stand to leave my career.
Yeah.
One that I
But
felt, go ahead.
the warfare began before you made the decision.
Oh yeah.
Like I said, coming against you, telling you, oh, this, in so many words, this isn't a good look for the department, for someone of your stature. You should do this and you should. No, absolutely not. Because when it all boils down to, you have to stand before God, not them for you.
Not them for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember those conversations. I remember,
Mm-hmm.
and I remember saying, tenure is not my God. Like if
Mm-hmm.
y'all are going to like make a decision on me, not based on merit, but based on something you don't agree with what I'm doing publicly that has nothing to do with this university, I have a lot of questions about that then. Like I don't
Mm-hmm.
like that. You're not going to control me with that. So I always knew that I could not play that game with them, right? Because if I did, I was going to have to sacrifice so many other things of myself, my beliefs, to actually be fully indoctrinated into the system. And so I think that was like, God's like, nah, you do this, you're gonna get trapped, Briana. I'm trying to
Right.
stop you from getting trapped later on when I need you to really move in a way that I need you to move. And so I forgot about those conversations until you just brought them up, because I'm just like, yeah, no, I'm not doing that. Y'all not gonna control me with this. But
And that's important that you took that stand. It's important that you took that stand. But what was more important is that your work ethic spoke volumes for you, even when that individual tried to speak negatively about you.
Yeah.
Your work ethic stood because of the integrity that you walk in. And that's the God in you. That's that Christ in you, the hope of glory.
Mm.
That's the stand, that integrity and that stand. So yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it's true. It's hard taking a stand. I ain't gonna lie, y'all.
It is.
Jesus Christ. Okay. So there have been many times where I've called you in full weep and saying, I'm terrified. I'm scared. I don't understand. Why do I gotta do this? Why am I being put out like this? Why me? Why me? Nah, 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 nah. And so as a mother, as a woman of God, like, how did you navigate hearing your child who didn't bring this on herself? Because there's a thing like, you brought this on yourself, and this is God yoking you on up. How did you navigate that, knowing that you have your relationship with God, but you're also seeing your daughter fall apart frequently?
Well, honestly, in that respect, Briana, I tell you, a lot of times it's through prayer and fasting, that me as your mom, I'm able to have some intel and some insight on what to do and how to be there. I often go back to when you were transitioning from 8th grade to high school, when I had that dream, and it was like, if you don't let her go, you're gonna lose her. And then it was, the transition from high school to college, and just the whole thing with that, and navigating. It was new for both of us. Even going down to Mississippi twice, and making sure you had everything, and trying to ensure. And one of the things I asked the Lord is that, did I do everything I was supposed to do for her, to equip her? And then from the transition from undergrad to grad school, and the things you went through there. And then when you were accepted into the University of Alabama, and then the way that you were accepted, and once
Conditional.
Right. It was on a conditional status. So then it was like everything was like an uphill battle for you.
Yeah. Yes.
And the thing is that a lot of it was praying. And a lot of people, you know, I tell people when they tell me about what's going on with their children, I'll be like, I can teach you how to pray for your children. But what I've learned is that a lot of people, they want to say, oh, God got this. And it's like, does he really? Because he didn't have it. But I had to give it to him as your parent and pray you through those things. And sometimes I prayed in English, sometimes I prayed in tongues. And a lot of times, sometimes I had to pray for you even when you were sick and you were going through and, you know, things like that. And I couldn't be there with you. And I mean, the closest you were to me from with school status was when you was in Edwardsville, Illinois.
Illinois, yeah.
And that I could drive there, but you wasn't sick then.
It was all the way, I'm elsewhere.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And so, you know, it made my relationship with the Lord more defined too, because it kept me literally on my knees or within his face, crying out to him about what's going on. And it's like, sometimes I was like, God, I can't take this. You know, it hurts when you see your children hurting. It hurts. Sometimes we see our children hurting because they made bad decisions, but you were following the plan. And when you were called crying, and even when you were in Edwardsville and you all experienced the racism down there, and, you know, and then at that time, your mentor had to come to you all, you know, to defend you guys as Black women.
Yeah.
Because of the amount of racism you experienced. Yeah. That was very hard.
Yeah.
And it was just the thing of, Briana, I think that by my never experiencing the life that you are living, or at that time, the things that you went through from college and, you know, the experiences of grad school and undergrad, and then to professional school, and just the navigation and how I navigated those things with you. And even to the point where I reached out to one of the prophets I know from Facebook to ask her how to pray for you because she was in the process of getting her PhD. And she would tell me how to pray for you. She would give me tips and she would give me prophetic words, you know, for you. And that helped me too, because I was at the point where I didn't even know how to pray anymore. Because I'm like, what do I bind? What do I lose? I mean, I'm used to kicking the devil's butt
right now.
But it's like when it's God, you can't bind him. You can't lose him. You got to tell him what his promises says. You know, he says the promises of God are yes and amen. And I'm like, God, I don't see a yes or amen in this one.
At all. Not one bit.
Oh my goodness. But yeah, honey, it was something, because when you cry, I cry. When you're hurting, I'm hurting.
Yeah. And
sometimes it's like, you know, something would happen and it'd be all five of y'all at the same time. It's like, oh Lord. But dealing with having to navigate this, it was new to you, it was new to me. And at that time, I did not have the wisdom of experience for the navigation. So I had to tap into heaven to get the wisdom from on high.
Yeah.
To help you. And to, you know, sometimes I had to listen. You call and I, or if I hadn't heard from you, I'm calling you. I'm like, oh,
silent, y'all.
Yeah, you did. You would go silent.
I don't have nothing to say. So as you were talking, I'm wondering, like, did that at any point, maybe in this situation specifically, like hearing me, knowing that God is God and he gonna guide no matter what. Mm-hmm. And then hearing me to the point of breakdown, desperation, I don't know what's going on. I'm at my wit's end. Did that kind of at any point, I guess, maybe put your relationship with God under strain a little bit?
No, because honestly, it was to the point where it made me come closer. And not just wade in the water, but launch out into the deep. more or less, in previous conversations, I've told you guys, praying for you all is where I got my prayer life.
Yeah.
And how, I was able to navigate a lot of, as the old folks say, muddy waters. But no, it didn't put a strain, but it was just like, okay, you're going to have to help I need you to help. God, I would tell him, what his word says. I would tell him what his promises said, what you said about my children, things that you've shown me. And then he would have to comfort me in your process.
Right. Because it's one thing when he's the person who's doing it, right? Like, you are doing this to her. you would like go fight somebody else.
But he would always say, the suffering of the present time is not worthy to be compared with the glory that shall be revealed. And it's like, okay, but how long does she have to suffer?
Period.
And then it's like, God, I'm like, it was a lot, because then I was concerned that you would make rash decisions, and I'd have to talk you off of a cliff, and, talk you back down, and you get mad and not talk to me for a couple of days. You'd be like, okay, Ma.
I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to hear it.
No, and that's the thing. A lot of times you don't want to hear it.
I don't want to hear that. I don't want to, because these my sufferings be 1.5 2 years. Like back to back to back to back.
But the thing is that you would go on those fasts. You would, you would deny yourself. You went on one fast with the church, and then God extended that fast. And I was just like, when I hugged you, I was just like, oh my God, can you please eat?
I was skinny than a mud. I was small. I think the church was August, and then I had to fast until the new year.
Right. And it was. So honestly, it made me it caused me to come closer to him, but it caused me to know him in a different aspect, because a lot of times we hear other people talk about what their journey was or what it was, but it was like seeing it full force. It was like, I gave up this and I gave up that. And it was like, yeah, okay. But to see, and then my thing was that, Lord, you said she was this, and you told me to teach her that. And Lord, you said she was destined for greatness. See, but God showed me my thinking was small, because I'm like, okay, she a doctor, she good,
Great.
I got my daughter's a doctor, this is my daughter. Hey, look, I had her when I was 17, and they said I would never do this and do that, and many came against her and spoke evil against her, and it's like, remind me where your children are, things like that. And it's like,
whoopsie. But for real, no shade.
Seriously. And, it was like a lot of people had issues with the way that I raised my children. You sheltered them, or you did this, you did that. And it's like, but they made better decisions than that of their peers. And I thank God that you guys are still alive. You could be you could have been a teenage parent. You could have, a lot of things could have derailed you. But then I say, but God, and then the thing is that you shared your secrets with me. You shared different things, and I gave you different perspectives. And I just, one of the things was that I did not want any of my children to have the life that I had chose.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it made me see God in a different light, from a faith standpoint. And it caused me to know him, not just as my savior or the God who shows up for me, but as a friend. And it's like, we need to talk, because this is hurting me.
We need to talk.
We need to talk. It's like, Father, Lord, God,
Say uncle.
Listen, Elohim, sir.
What do we need to call you?
By the mercies of God.
What do we need to call you to respond?
Right. It was like, and it's like, God, you say your mercies are new every day. Have mercy on my baby. Have mercy on my baby. And it's like, yeah, but this is my daughter. I loaned her to you. I needed her to get into the earth.
That's a
But
hard.
this is my daughter.
She's
And
mine.
that's the hard thing
She's
that
my,
you
actually,
deal
she's
with.
mine.
Right.
And I could not imagine any parent trying to journey through their child and train up the child in the way they should go. And then you see, you did that, but then you see how the way starts to unfold and unravel. And I'm always thinking about, like, you know, how you may get these prophetic words or these prophetic unctions, and they're talking about what you're going to be. But ain't nobody say I was going to have to lead this career.
And they didn't tell you the process either.
They didn't say the process. No one
he showed, the Bible say he declares the end from the beginning, right?
So he's showing you the big picture.
He show you the big picture, but he don't show you all that in between that you maneuvering and you going this way and circling back around, and the mountain, you done went around the mountain 12 times. He never told you to walk around the mountain. He said, speak to it. And, you know, and it's like, oh my goodness.
Yeah. Yeah. No one said that part. No one said that part, like, oh yeah, no, you're gonna have to give this one up. Because in the vein of transparency, I feel like I've said this before, I was going to try to do both. Right. I was still gonna try to go up for tenure, let me do my stuff. This is security, job security forever. And then God, you know, we could do what you want.
He said, yeah, okay.
And I remember saying, I don't know when I'm going to have to leave, but I know that there's a decision that I have to make that's going to trigger this process. And when I had to make the decision, when it was kind of forced upon me in last September, I said, oh, this is why you ain't saying nothing. Back in June when I was asking. And, you know, I don't know, like, I remember when we were conversing, like, Briana, are you sure? I've heard people say, like, make sure this is God. And I'm like, Ma, what you think I'm just not gonna do this? Like, Ma, do you think
I definitely said that. I definitely said, Briana, make sure that this is God. And I did say, you know, I've heard people say, when you're being called off your job, you need to make sure that it's God that's telling you to come off your job.
And I'm looking at the phone like, do you think I'm gonna make that move by myself?
And then look, and then I'm like, oh God, here we go again. We gotta go through this again. And it's like, a lot of people say, well, what do you mean we? I said, I go through with them.
Here we go again.
I go through with them because of the nature of our relationships.
Yeah.
I can honestly say I have a good relationship with all of you guys.
Yeah. And as the oldest, I'm like, I'm good. You know, they ain't nothing changed. You're like, no, I still want to check. I'm like, you got 4 others who doing something else. And you're like, no, you still, not mine, ain't nothing changed. It's the same thing. I don't want to talk about this. I don't want to think about this.
When you sent me the clip of the letter you got, your evaluation,
I ain't say a word.
I didn't bother. I was gonna send you a text, and then I got distracted and I left it in queue. And I was like, man, it's been 3 days. And I know you had put it in your Insta story. And I'm like, okay, I ain't heard nothing. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah. So what she's talking about, y'all, is I got my final tenure and promotion evaluation. And it was glowing reviews per usual. And they literally said, had I stood tenure and promotion, I would have easily gotten it. And I shut down for 3 days. I had nothing to say because there's levels to this decision, right? And there's all these there's the sequence of closings that have to happen before the final close. So it feels like a series of deaths over and over again on different levels. And I sent it, and when I read it, I cried. I ain't even gonna lie. When I read that promotion case, I cried because I was like, all of my hard work. I worked so hard. I did what I was supposed to do. I was a light, I was this, and I still had to give it up. Not fully knowing right now as we're recording why, not fully knowing why I had to give it up or where I'm going. I just knew I had to give it up. And I shut down. I ain't have a word. Because it's easy to say, follow God, obey God. Obedience is better than sacrifice. But there is a level of obedience that you do have to sacrifice, right? And you're about to sacrifice your whole life. And
everything that you thought you worked to.
Hello.
And that's the key, that you thought you worked for.
I worked for it. You was in the trenches with me, ma'am.
Digging.
And then even remember right before I graduated, my brother dies. Like it was a series of hits.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was just like, can I get a break? And remember from 2021, a series of hits. Like breaking down. This was a guy that I'm gonna have to break your heart. And I was like, I followed him. He told me to do this thing. And it fell apart.
Reminds me of the what is it? I think it's Elijah, where he did everything God told him to do, and did all the stuff and confronted the prophets of Baal, and then all of a sudden Jezebel said, "I'm gonna kill you."
He tired. He couldn't take no more.
And the angel had to come and tell him, "What are you doing here?
He couldn't take no more.
Get up,
baby." Because
and a lot of times people think that with Christianity that it's so easy, because a lot of those that are out there ministering, and they make you think that it's easy, or they frame it in a way that they're not telling you the whole truth. As I said, the ugly truth. They're not sharing that. And I think that your decision to walk with Christ, it's huge. And it's like, okay, I'm all in. And that's the thing where you would come to God and you're just like, okay, I'm gonna do it.
I'm gonna do it. And you still ain't showed up yet. And then I showed people the journey on the podcast, the ugly me crying, face swollen.
Did you?
Yeah, like in January when I first revealed, the whole month of January on this podcast, I was showing the clips of me about to go resign and have the formal conversation, the clip of me submitting the formal resignation, the clip of me, our phone call.
I ran across those pictures the other day too. I was just like, oh,
face swollen. I'm like, I'm just not looking like myself because I'm looking like everything I've been through. And I felt that God wanted me to show that in process, so that no one will ever have to look back and say, how did you do this? Oh, go look at this series. These 4 episodes, more are gonna come out, and see this. I struggled with this decision. And I'm still struggling. Y'all see, every time I talk about it, I tear up. I'm still struggling with it, but I'm still like doing it in the struggle. And it is not an easy thing to give up your life, or the life you knew, or the life you wanted, because I did get what I wanted out of my career. Like he let me do what I wanted to do, or what I felt that I was created to do. And he's like, all right, time's up. I always tell people, like, I haven't had a lot of opportunities, but the opportunities that I have had, I tried to make the most out of them. Right. And, even down to the Vegas job. And that was the only offer I got, but it was a denial before it was an offer. And so there were I've only had very small opportunities, but every small opportunity I've made, I pulled out as much of that opportunity as I was able to do. And so when we get to this moment at 33, my Jesus year, and I was like, oh, this is gonna be my Jesus year. I don't walk on water not knowing you literally, sis, about to walk on this water. Walk out of this.
You don't have to be able to walk on water.
You walked on out this career.
And say, now faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. So here we are.
Here we are. We're in this moment. We are, by the time this airs, we're going to be 45 days out.
Yeah.
Still without a solid clue. And, how do you feel? Like, we're coming to the end of this thing, right? So how are you feeling now from where we were at the top of 2023 when I said, I know this is about to happen? Now we are mid almost mid 2024. How you feeling now? Navigating everything we navigate.
I'm following your lead. I stop, I listen.
Y'all.
Huh?
I said, that's a first, y'all.
I stop and I listen. In following your lead, meaning that I pay attention to what's going on with you. You a lot of times you don't necessarily say everything that's going on until it just, and then that's when I know everything. But I know when you go silent, because you're a lot like me. When I go silent, it's like it's best that I don't talk. I know that when I because Sundays is when we kiki and kaka, and last Sunday we did not ki or ka. We did not. And so I knew that when I didn't get that call at 8:30 in the morning that you were going through some things. I think I called you later on in the week just to say, are you okay? And you was like, I'm studying. And I said, well, I just wanted to see if you were okay. You was like, I'm okay, Ma. And I'm like, no, you're not, but okay.
What you want me to say?
And then I guess you couldn't do it because you were just about to go live.
Go live. He's like, I was calling to hear your voice. And I said, hi.
Yeah. Like, what's really going on? And I think Josh had asked me too, had I talked to you? And then he made the joke about the elder statesman. And I was like, well, you know what? I'm gonna, let me reach out to her to see what's going on. Because sometimes Josh may know something that I don't.
Yeah, I don't know. When I go silent, it's like, I don't have nothing else to say. I'm really angry and I'm emotional and I can say whatever. And I could probably lash out at you and you have nothing to do with this. So I'm going to try to just be quiet. I'm simmering in this decision because it's not the closer we get to it, it does not get easier. And I think in my mind, I thought it would get easier the closer I get to the end date, to June 30th, and it has not gotten easier at all.
But I think that whatever it is, for this to close, it has to close so that you can give birth to whatever it is, or the door can open to the next plan, the next step in the for the next step of what the Father has for you. Yeah. I think that it's kind of like even when you were transitioning to Vegas, and we both were like, it's like the best of times and the worst of times. And it's like the tale of two cities. Yeah. And it was just like, I literally at that point understood what that meant. The best of times and the worst of times. You had become homeless. Nothing on your part, but it was just the warfare because of where you were going. Think about it like this, Briana, you graduated high school. I didn't. You graduated college. I didn't. Then you went to grad school. So you broke barriers. You pioneered a lot for the family. You were the first. Not only were you my first child, but you were the first in our immediate family. Between me and your dad, he didn't graduate from high school either. Right. Although, I have my GED, but and I said that you were going to be better than me. You were destined for greatness. And God gave me a glimpse of where he wanted to take you. So you were able to make, to cross those, and it wasn't a milestone. You were able to cross those things to break open. So the warfare that you experienced in breaking open those barriers, as they say, that glass ceiling, you broke through it. You're the first doctor in our family. On my mom's side, and then on my dad's side, I have a sister who has a PhD as well. And he was so proud of you as well. My doctor, he called you his little girl. Right. But I mean, it's exciting to see, that someone of your stature within my family. For me, when it was said, oh, I'd never be anything, I never this, I never that, you ruined your life, you had a child, you're 17, you're this, that, and the other. And it's like, well, I mean, she's here. And then to have to grow up. And I often tell people, the first 3 years of your life, my mama was your mother. And I mean, I was there and I did the things that I thought I was supposed to do. I took you to the doctor, I bought your clothes, but hey, I was trying to rip and run and do what I was doing. And then when I came to know Jesus, my life changed and things turned around. And so I was able to cultivate you and to teach you those things. And so for you to surpass and be a pioneer, it speaks volume. Because it was like, I was sharing with someone recently, I said, when I watched A Different World, I never had the college experience, but I wanted my children to have the college experience. And then I had people that I would meet when I was young that would come back from school. And I was like, wow, nobody ever told me about going away to college. I never had an idea of that. And I was like, I want my kids to go away to college. I want my kids to do this, and I want my kids to do, and that's what happened. I want my children to be successful.
Yeah.
And although my mom did the best she could with what she had, I was exposed to different people in different aspects of life. And I said, hey, even when I worked at the Museum of Science and Industry, working with those high school kids, and the girl was telling, we're going away to college, and I'm going to this school, Spelman. And I was like, Spelman? And so I had to find out what Spelman was, Spelman College. And that was the school I wanted you to go to.
And I got in, by the way, y'all, I got into Spelman.
She did. I was, remember in high school, I was on them councils because they was moving too slow with your college applications.
Yeah. God had a plan, but right. I did that school.
You got into every school you applied to.
I did.
But I wanted you to go to Spelman because that was the first real college that I heard about. And I was like, oh, I want Briana. And you was in 5th grade then. And I was like, oh, I want her to go to Spelman. And I drilled that in you. You going to Spelman, you going to college, And so I had to educate myself on where I wanted you to go. And that's why I pushed you so hard. You used to tell me even in high school, Mom, get off my back, you too heavy. Please. You too heavy.
Too heavy.
And it's funny, even when I was just talking to one of to my niece, your cousin, about her children and getting in high school, and I said she went to Hyde Park because that was the only high school that accepted her. And you graduated number 7?
Yeah, number 7 in the class, top 10.
Top 10 in the International Baccalaureate
and
program.
I went from like 15 to number 7 in 1 year. And I remember one of my former friends was like, how you do that? And I was like, dang. Dang, Gina.
But God.
Yeah, I did.
And you just don't know his plans and his purposes. And it's just looking back on where you've been, where you come through, the stumbles, the falls, the breakouts, the breakups, the broken hearts, the fights, the everything.
Have mercy. Y'all see how much I've been having to fight all my life? I had to fight. It has not been no crystal stair.
Life for me.
Ain't been no crystal. When y'all see me up here, like doing what I'm doing and talking, and maybe y'all see the glimpses of my life, understand it has been an uphill battle all the time. And I'm like, God, come on. But it's also understanding that the reason it's been the uphill battle in a lot of respects is kind of what my mom alluded to. I've had to do it first. So the first gets the brunt of the backlash. You're trying to break stuff, you're trying to push through, you're getting the resistance, like Jesus Christ. And so this one is a hard one. This one that I'm standing in right now, I would probably do all the other ones again. If I never want to do this again. I never want to experience this transition again, ever. Because it's been a long transition. I remember telling someone, I said, it would probably be better for me if I was like fired, or if I was like laid off and it was an immediate close. This has been a year and a half long closing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think holding the tension of closing for so long, I think that has been the most agonizing part of the journey. If it was we gotta this is ending now, okay, I can move on. But I haven't been able to move on because I'm still in it.
Yes.
For so long.
Definitely.
Going into 2 seasons, trying to figure out, I don't know what this is over here. I really don't want to do it, to be honest. I'm uninterested. And then, dang, this is ending, but you've taken my appetite for it. So I can't stay, even if I was going to try to stay. It's been a very challenging thing. And I wanted to bring you on to kind of talk through it and, hear your perspective from it, because y'all see me showing up, but there is, the person who you don't see, that I'm probably going silent, crying, spitting and farting, about ready to curse, sorry, Mom, if I slip up, this is how I feel though. And I don't understand. And I'm just going on and on and on. And she just like,
I just listen.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes that's what we need.
Yeah.
You don't always need someone to tell you or give you their thoughts and their opinions, because that's exactly what it is, their thoughts and their opinions. Sometimes you just want someone to listen, because your thought and your opinion can be a deterrent for what my plan and purpose is. So I give you that, my time, and something I could never get back is my time. Yeah. And so I listen.
Yeah.
And I talk to you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm there. I answer the phone. So yeah.
And I don't say nothing a lot of times. I'm silent. I don't got nothing to say. You're like, you can say something. I know when something wrong with you. The same thing been wrong with me for the last year.
I do. A lot of people, they look at you and they say, oh, she got it together. Oh, she this, she that. Don't get me wrong. I am excited about your life. I am happy about your accomplishments. I'm very pleased with where you are. But at the same time, they don't know the story. You see the glory, but you don't know the story. You don't know the back. You don't know the late nights. You don't know, when I'm like, oh Lord, I'm gonna have to try to get to her. And you like, Mom, okay.
But I do remember having to come home in November. And I said, I'm not okay. And you said, come home.
Right, come home.
And I slept majority of the time that I was there, because I was struggling.
But that's what you needed.
Yeah.
That's what you needed. Yeah. We didn't really do too much
at all.
That's just what you needed.
Yeah, because I was struggling. I said, I'm not okay. He said, come home. Come home for Thanksgiving. Yeah, and I did. I was knocked out. I ain't going nowhere.
Because you usually don't come home for Thanksgiving.
I don't. But I wasn't okay in November.
Right.
And then I'm leading the Let There Be challenge. And I am broken down.
But you showed up for what God had you to do.
Jesus, I remember November. November to remember, because, babe, I ain't have it. But I'm grateful that I had an opportunity. Or you can come home. I know, big dog. I know you out here. I know you ain't okay, because you done said it a lot of times. Come on back.
Yeah.
And I did. And I was chilling, and I ain't do nothing too much. I ain't got nothing for nobody. But thank you for agreeing to come on the podcast, share your thoughts, share your insight and your wisdom for, how you've helped me navigate, and just being honest and like, it hasn't been easy watching her make this decision, even though you champion that decision, follow God, but then you see,
I trust the God in you. I trust the God in you.
You have said that. And and then you see it like, oh shoot, this girl is getting a taste left out of her mouth, and ain't nothing nobody can do about it.
And you're not picking fights. You just being obedient.
I'm not picking a fight because that's not
But
my temperament.
but the word says narrow is the way and few there be that find it.
Yeah,
So the thing is that it's not the popular road. It's not popular decisions to make. It's not.
you're right.
And even when others looked at you and thought you were crazy, and now they're circling back around like, hey, how did you do this? Hey. But that's what pioneers are. That's what pioneers do.
And if I could trade the pioneer anointing, I would give it to somebody else. But yeah, this has been great. I want to say publicly, thank you for helping me journey through. I know it's not easy. One, managing all of our personalities, and we have strong personalities, the oldest three. Um, but more specifically, just making room for me to be honest and say, I don't want this. I don't like this. This is what I'm terrified of. This is what bothers me. This is what I got questions about, and not you trying to spiritual bypass it. Oh, trust the Lord, or hyper spiritualize it. Like I probably would
Girl,
have on the phone if you would have
it's
said
times I be like, look, I need you to show me who you are again.
again.
Again. You
Another
know
one.
what John the Baptist asked Jesus? He
Are you
was
the
the
one?
one that said, behold, the Lamb of God who
And then
takes away the sins of the world. And then he sent his disciples later and say, are you the one?
go
Or
find
do
out
we
if he
look
the one
for
for real.
another?
Because
Come on. That's life.
so, I'm really appreciative of it, because this is a journey, this is an avenue that I'm turning into that no one in the family has been in. Right. And we've seen it, but we've not experienced it. And just, giving me the space to be honest about being 34, my concerns. This is what I've done. I have questions about this. This is what I don't like, and not shutting down the conversation to say the Lord, the Lord, the Lord, but hearing me as a woman, and also as your child, say, I ain't got it. And not you trying to say, something else, make it feel better, because you
Give
already
you a
know.
cliche. I heard one minister say, what you gonna do when the Holy Ghost pull a knife on you? Are you gonna surrender? What you gonna do? And that's the thing, is that at this point you're allowing God to process you. Although the process is ugly, it's painful, it's scary. And it was, even for myself, when I went through several processes, and nobody walked that walk, and it was like I was by myself. But you would hear different scriptures, or the Bible says that he'll give us songs of deliverance. And so we would have those different things. You'd wake up in the morning, you hear a song playing in your spirit, and that's the Lord speaking to you and comforting you. So with that regard, Briana, that's the thing that you hold on to.
I remember someone saying, and we're gonna hop off in a second. I remember someone saying, when I was talking about, transitioning out of my career, and they were like, Brianna, it's easy. It's easy when you got money aside, that you don't got to immediately worry about it. And it wasn't shade. They kind of meant it shade, but I didn't take it as shade, because I was like, you're right. Had I not listened in 2019, when God started to impress upon my heart, start getting your money together, I would not be able to make this decision in 2023 going into 2024. So you are right, but I really believe that God, he knows this is coming, and I need you on time. So I need to start preparing you here. But we don't do the preparation here. So when time and chance meet, we miss the opportunity, because we did not do what we were supposed to do before we made it to the appointed time. And so yes, this person was trying to be shady, but I'm like, you're right.
Yeah.
I have a nest egg, or I do have 6 figures in my retirement, that if God play, we just gonna have to pull it down. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, if he want to play,
Definitely.
he be late. He be late with me. He be last minute.
You be playing. He be playing. But the comforting thing is that you were obedient.
Yes.
And for the individual who would say something similar to that, or someone who would think that, the thing is that a lot of times when we say something told me, that's the Holy Spirit. That's God. He reigns on the just as well as the unjust. and he'll warn you. He tell, just like, you know, the preparation, start putting away this, start putting away that. Don't have all your money in one account. Don't do this, don't do that. But the thing is that to be obedient and to listen. And a lot of times it has to be radical. So to those who would say, oh, well, you have money in your account, well, you could do it too. I just had to stop getting what you do, you stop getting your nails done.
I stopped eating. I was eating, my grocery bill was $50 a week.
Right.
And then, so I wasn't eating a lot. Y'all know this. And then I had to make the meal stretch. Like I stopped doing everything. I pulled all the way back. I couldn't go out.
You stopped shopping?
My friends couldn't go. No, like I stopped shopping. I couldn't go out to eat with my friends, and they're going on trips. Everyone enjoying their life. Like I literally had to go down. Mm-hmm. It was hard because I had a goal. And then when I started trying to like build wealth and not just get out of debt, then I had to implement another mindset. I had to adopt another mindset that, you know, it changes by what season I'm in. It shifts.
And that's good.
Y'all, thank you so much for joining us on this special Mother's Day. Again, happy Mother's Day to all the mothers. Happy Mother's Day to you, Mom. You already know, child, we thank God for you. Because I don't know what I would be doing. I'd be somewhere rocking. I'd be rocking anyway, but I'd be somewhere sliding down the wall. But I just want to say thank you so much for agreeing to come on the podcast, share your insights, share, you know, just how you've navigated this difficult time, because it is a difficult time for you, in addition to being a difficult time for me. So I just wanted to say thank you so much, and I love you.
I love you too, baby.
Y'all, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, leave us a comment in the description or in the comment box, and share this with a friend who could use some empowerment or encouraging thoughts or words on today. I will see y'all soon in another installment of the Book of Briana. Bye.